Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG, and today we have the top 5 picks for Pauper from March of the Machines. Normally don't go too far into Pauper. We didn't get a whole lot of good Pauper cards. We did get enough to make it to 5, I do believe. And I do say they are some doozies in my opinion. And it's going to be very interesting to see if these do have the effect on Pauper that I think they will. So, with that being said, don't forget to subscribe and like. It helps support the channel since we're unsponsored. So, without further ado, let's take a look at what March of the Machines is going to do for our Pauper format. So, starting off with number 5, we have the Flywheel Racer. So, the Flywheel Racer here is 2 colors for a 3/2 with Vigilance. You can add a mana of any color, activate only the Flywheel Racer as a creature, but it crews for 1. What does that mean? Well, for one, it will have summoning sickness, so it does make it a little slower. But this is a thing that you can put into your pauper decks that for just 2 mana can ramp you to 3 mana as long as you have a 1 power creature. So basically, it turns any creature on the board into an elf, which we know is powerful. Secondly, as a 3/2 with vigilance, it can swing before you tap it for mana. So you literally, if you're getting into a slugfest with an opponent who's on aggro, you literally can go, I'm going to activate my Flywheel Racer. I'm going to punch you for 3. And now I'm going to tap it, make a creature to block with. And as long as you have creatures to block with, Flywheel Racer can also kill other things as well. At 3/2, it does a real good job of sizing up other creatures in the format inside of Pauper. I don't know how much of this we'll see, but I do think it's going to be pretty sweet. I'm not going to lie. All right, moving on. Next, we have at number 4, we have Meeting of the Minds. Just like me and my buddies in high school. Anyway, so for blue and 3, you have an instant that draws 2 cards. That may seem like a lot, but it has Convoke. So you literally can, let's say you're playing a blue deck or whatever it is, right? If you are on defense or feel like being on defense, whatever, you literally can block your opponent's creatures to try to do some trade-offs. And if you have 2 creatures on the field and you block, once you block, before damage is dealt, you can then convoke those 2 creatures plus 2 mana and get a 2 mana draw 2, which is absurd. And if you're playing with things that are cheap to get out there or 1 mana creatures and you need to power into or through your deck to find more lands, interaction, or whatever, you literally can just be like, well, I can't swing this turn. I'm going to have to take some damage. Maybe hold the line, and if the trade-offs aren't good and your opponent doesn't attack you, you maybe at the end of their turn tap 3 of your own creatures and 1 blue to draw 2 cards and repeat process. This is absurdly good draw for the Pauper format. You don't see things like this in Pauper very often. And it's just something very powerful I think we're going to start seeing a lot of. All right, next we have at number 3, the Aetherblade Agent. Why do I like this? Well, for one, it's a 2 mana 1/1 with Death Touch, which means it's going to kill anything it blocks. It's basically removal. On the bright side, if you can pay 2 life and 4 mana, if you get that far, which late game you might, this thing becomes a 3/3 that when it deals damage to an opponent, you can draw a card. That is insane. Not to mention the fact that it draws a card, but the fact that it becomes a 3/3. In the Pauper format, you don't often see cards 3/3 or bigger, and this is going to be one of them. Yes, it does take extra mana. Yes, it could be hard to get the 4 mana, but let's think about it honestly. This is the first priority of this card is to just trade with the opponent's biggest creature that you find a hassle. And to do that, they got to swing at you. And if this thing is sitting on the battlefield, probably not going to swing at you. Now, yes, they could use removal to kill it, but let's be honest. You would rather them kill this than probably one of your other creatures that might be a little more important. So, I think this is definitely number 3. All right, moving on. Next, we have number 2, Atraxas Fall. I mean, what can you say about this card at a common other than it slices, it dices, it makes julienne fries? This does it all. For a green and 1 sorcery, you can destroy an artifact. Now, there won't be any battles. There's no common battles. But let's take battle out of the equation. This destroys an artifact, an enchantment, a creature with flying. Just those three things would normally come on a card that was an instant and takes 3 mana. This card, yes, it's a sorcery, but it's only 2. And if you have to play on your turn, in Pauper, playing at instant speed isn't as much as the bee's knees as it needs to be because the cards aren't always that powerful. This is absurd because at 2 mana, it makes it really hard to deal with. I mean, this is removal at its finest, especially for 2 mana. Plus, let's not forget, at some point, we've have battles now. We have uncommons, we have rares, we have mythics. Battles will eventually come out at common. It will happen at some point. And when it does, the value of this card is just going to get higher because then you can play your uncommon battles and then use this card to destroy it to make some kind of big, ugly, nappy thing that you can then proceed to punch your opponent in the face very, very hard. Um, we've seen how these battles and stuff size up already. Even at common, I mean, let's say there's a common that when it comes into play, you get a 1/1 creature. It takes 2 mana to cast it, and if you kill the battle, you get a 3/3 creature that's vanilla. So, like, for 4 mana, you would get a 1/1 and a 3/3. That's 4 power toughness for 4 mana. It's perfectly fine. Plus, the ability to use the fall on anything else that comes into play is also phenomenal. So, I think this card is absurdly good for Pauper, and if you guys aren't picking this up, I highly suggest that you do. I know there's lots of decks in the format currently this card can target, and because it's only 2 and not 3, even though it's not an instant, I think it's still perfectly fine. And you can't get past the Fallen Angels should stay fallen. Gotta love that flavor text. Because as you guys know, this is them collapsing buildings on Atraxas and giving the smackdown. Dropping the elbow, if you will, from the top rope. Anyway, so moving on. Next, we have number 1 card that will probably see play in Pauper and have the most effect, Angelic Intervention. This card is so good. It's a white and a colorless instant. Target creature or planeswalker you control gain protection from colorless or a color of your choice in a turn. If it's a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So, let's get the easy part out of the way first. We don't have common planeswalkers. Doesn't happen. So, let's read the card a different way with that not in there. Target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice in a turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Does that sound like something you'd like to play in Pauper? It does to me, because we know that there's colorless decks from the Urza versions and everything else. Plus, there's colored decks. The fact it gives +1/+1 and protection means this can be a removal spell when you block another creature. It can prevent your creature from being removed. This card has so many things going for it. I just don't see how it cannot be good in Pauper. I mean, some of the best damage prevention and combat tricks are 2 mana in Pauper, and most of those tricks that are 1 mana in Pauper don't protect the creature or even make it big enough half the time so that things don't just die. So it's very interesting that we got a card from white on a common scale that gains protection from colors or colorless. So basically protection from anything. And the ability to pump the creature up to make it big enough to kill other creatures or bring home the damage to kill the opponent or the creature that you're blocking with it or that blocked this. So this card by far is going to see lots of play in Pauper. I think it's amazing. So pick up all the foils of these top 5 while you can, guys, because I think at the end of the day, they're going to be $4 or $5 a piece, maybe even higher, if they really do shine in Pauper like I think they will. So, with that being said, guys, I want to say again, thank you very much for watching the channel. Now's a good time to like and subscribe. If you already have, thank you very much. I love you. If you want to help out the channel even more, links in the description, Patreon, eBay store, my email if you want to reach out and say hey, all that good stuff. And Don't forget, until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table. Hopefully at pre-release, getting down Phyrexian style.